Hey Ashley, are you ready to answer some questions?
Yeah, go for it.
What do you know about the Great War?
The Great War went from 1914 to 1918, and it's also considered World War I.
Cool. How did the Great War affect India?
Generally, the Great War inspired nationalism among all countries, but specifically India. India wanted to become independent.
Cool. What actions did India take to gain independence?
The Indian National Congress and Muslim League created the Congress Party because they wanted Hindus and Muslims to separate. And Gandhi opposed this idea because he didn't want segregation to arise. And soon people created the non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement, where Indian students and intellectuals boycotted goods.
How did the British respond to that?
The British tried to repress the boycott, but failed, so they offered compromise. They offered a modified self-rule through the India Act. Muslims refused because they wanted to become independent. Muslims' need for independence led to the discrimination of Hindus.
What did the Hindus and Muslims do to resolve their conflict?
I'm glad you asked. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the head of the Muslim League, proposed two states. Hindus would have India and Muslims would have Pakistan.
Alright, cool. I think we're done here. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Hey Caleb, ready to answer some questions?
Sure, let's go.
As you probably already know, the revolution of 1911 in China did not establish a stable republic. What was the political state of China at this time?
Well, the unstable republic soon became a state of political anarchy and economical disintegration by the rule of warlords. They also established themselves as provincial or regional rulers.
How did the unequal treaties affect Chinese relations?
Well, the unequal treaties established foreign control over the Chinese economy, which prevented economic development as well as impaired their sovereignty, because they allowed foreigners to intervene in Chinese society.
How did the Great War affect China?
Similar to India, China's nationalism was strengthened. They expected the Paris Peace Conference, which ended the Great War, would end the unequal treaties, but instead allowed Japan to expand to China.
What actions did China take to prevent Japanese expansion?
The May 4th movement, which was created in response to the Paris Peace Conference, Chinese youth and intellectuals pledged themselves to rid China of imperialism and reestablish national unity against Japanese interference.
What do you know about Marxism and Leninism?
Many Chinese people became interested in Leninism and Marxism because of the practice of communism in the Soviet Union. Their interest created the Chinese Communist Party. The leader of the Chinese Communist Party is Mao Zedong, who was inspired by the Social Revolution, in turn advocated for women's equality.
Who's Sun Yat-sen?
Sun Yat-sen. I think Brooke can answer that.
Oh yeah, I got you. So after... Oh wait.
Sun
Is that
Yat-sen.
after the death?
Sun Yat-sen wanted to remove foreign privileges and favored democracy and nationalism. So he created the Nationalist People's Party, also known as the Kuomintang. Both the National People's Party and the Chinese Communist Party formed an alliance assisted the Soviet Union against foreigners.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah, so after the death of Sun Yat-sen, Jiang Jisi became the leader of the Nationalist People's Party. Unlike Yat-sen, Jiang Jisi didn't care for the Social Revolution or communism involving the Chinese masses. Instead, he launched a political and military offensive, which was the Northern Expedition, and that was a successful way to unify China.
Did any conflicts arise?
Yes, of course they did. China generally wanted to avoid any possible economic devastation, but they did have to face three issues. First, nationalists only controlled parts of China. Second, the 1930s Communist Revolution was still a threat. And third, the Nationalist People's Party faced increasing Japanese aggression.
What happened to Jiang?
Jiang's goal was to end the Chinese Communist Party, so the Chinese Communist Party fled to Yan'an. This event was known as the Long March, which was 6,215 miles.
What about Mao Zedong? What happened to him?
Mao believed that peasants were the key to a successful revolution. This belief was called Maoism.
All right, we're done.
Bless. Bye.
Hey, Carolyn. Ready to answer some questions?
Sure.
How did the Great War affect Japan?
Japanese businesses profited from munitions to allies, although the Great Depression caused their economy to crash.
How was Japan's government?
There was a circulating conflict between nationalists, internationalists, and supporters. Xenophobic nationalists wanted to maintain Japanese culture, which led to the assassination of politicians, and business leaders who promoted industrial capitalist system, for example, Prime Minister Inuki Tsuyoshi.
What the heck does xenophobic mean?
Xenophobia is the fear of other races.
How did the unification of China affect Japan?
It threatened Japanese interests in Manchuria.
What did Japan do about it?
In response, the Japanese blew up their own. Japanese built South Manchuria Railway, north of Makuden. Then they blamed the bombing on China, causing a conflict to arise.
That's so dramatic. What happened after that?
The Japanese military took over Manchuria, even though Japanese citizens opposed.
What did the League of Nations do after finding out that Japan took over Manchuria, going against the Paris Peace Treaty?
The League of Nations wanted Japan to stand out to maintain China's sovereignty, so Japan just left the League.
I think that's all the questions I need to ask. Thank you for your time.
No problem.